Welcome to the Dynasty Tailgate Podcast, a part of the IDP Army Podcast Network. We are at the end of position previews going into the 2022 college football season. Happy to have you all in today. We are going to end on linebackers and defensive backs. We're only going to do 5 of each. I was making up the list for them a couple of days ago, and I realized that I'm not super confident in the back half of the lists just yet. So, just for the sake of saving time and making sure that we can get through all of these position previews, we're going to do just 5 linebackers and 5 defensive backs. We just did edge rushers last week. If you're an IDP fan, you go check that out because that is more the list that you're probably going to want to integrate yourself with because those are where the better players are. But there are some gems here, especially on the linebacker side, that I think that you'll be able to get on your team this season. We're not going to do tight ends. I can try to make the list past Michael Mayer from Notre Dame into a very interesting one for everyone. If that was something that I think would be useful, but I do not currently because the tight ends are a little bit. It's not that any of them aren't good. It's just that I don't think they're going to be fantasy relevant. So we'll just save that for in-season talk, and maybe somebody will be getting themselves pushed up. But today we're going to talk about linebackers and defensive backs. So before we get to it all, though, let's take it. All right, I'm excited to have you all in today. I hope that you all are having a great day. So, IDP fans out there, we're going to talk linebackers and defensive backs today. So the edge rushers is the way more exciting position because most of them are going to be dual eligible linebacker and defensive end for the most part. So you're probably going to be more glued to that side of the football because that's probably the more interesting IDP relevant players that are going to be drafted higher in your leagues. But there are some linebackers here that I think that you're going to be very interested in come draft time. So let's start right at the top, and that's Noah Sewell from Oregon. He is the younger brother of Penei Sewell, who also went to Oregon. 6'3", 250 pounds, 72 tackles last season, 4 sacks, 1 interception, 3 pass breakups. He was everywhere. Very versatile linebacker for this team. He will be he profiles as a Mike linebacker at the next level. He's got great instincts when it comes to finding the football, and he stays on that ball carrier. So, tackle floor is going to be very high. I think it could be higher. Getting into a couple of his weaknesses real quick is tackling and coverage. So I know that's kind of the two things as a linebacker that you probably need to be good at, but coverage, it's not that he's really bad at it. It's just that he was not asked a lot to do it. So he was mainly, because he had Kayvon Thibodeau to his left, and he was mainly just asked to diagnose the defense and see where he needed to be. And he never, he dropped in coverage a couple times, but not enough to where I think that that's a strength of his. And also tackling, it's not necessarily that he can't tackle because he had plenty of tackles last season. It's that I think his tackle floor could be higher based on sometimes he goes in and he goes to hit the ball to try to dislodge it, tries to create a fumble or tries to, make a pass breakup, something like that potentially. Whereas I think, the wrapping up could be cleaned up slight a bit. I think that he's going to be a fantastic player at the next level. I've seen some people that have had him in the back half of the first round, and I think that's a little clickbait-y, if I can be completely honest, because he's a top 10 player going into this draft. He's going this is the one linebacker that I'm extremely confident in that you're going to be able to plug and play on your fantasy football team next season. and you will be completely fine. I don't think there will be a problem in the world having Noah Sewell on your team going into next season. And that's just if you miss out on like Will Anderson, for example. I think that you'd rather have Will Anderson, obviously, but if you miss out on him and you're really in the need for just a linebacker, especially those positional leagues where you will have to have the exact position, I think Noah Sewell will be your guy. I don't think he'll be dual eligible. He does kind of play a little bit like a defensive end, but not enough, and especially not as enough as this next player. And that is number 2, Trenton Simpson from Clemson. Yes, it rhymes. Simpson from Clemson. I've seen a lot of people say that he plays a lot like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah did at Notre Dame, and I'm not gonna lie, it kind of fits a little bit. So he's 6'3", 230 pounds, 52 tackles last season, 7 sacks, and 1 pass breakup. He is an extremely versatile player. Like, that is his one strength. I think that, I mean, he can be a Mike linebacker, where he's kind of diagnosing, putting people in place, doing his thing back there. But he can also drop into coverage. He can cover a linebacker, and will be, I don't know, very involved, I think, at the next level. Now, we've had kind of some scares. Isaiah Simmons, he was a hybrid linebacker, kind of made you nervous. Jeremy Chin kind of profiles as a defensive back and a linebacker, for example. But I think he's more in the vein of the Joker from Cleveland. I think that is more what we're looking at here. His one weakness is kind of what Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah's was, and that's strength. He needs to be a little bit stronger, because he's sacrificing the strength for speed. And while that is good at the college level, when you get to the NFL, that speed, everybody's fast. That's the thing. Like, everybody's going to be fast at the next level. That's just how it is, like, everybody's fast. So he needs to make up some of that strength. I don't think he's going to do it this year. I think he's going to keep going down the line. Clemson was very, like I said, 52 tackles, 7 sacks, 1 pass breakup. Had him playing very close to the line, but he doesn't necessarily need to do that. He can drop back in coverage. He can be a little bit more involved. And now that Brent Venables isn't there, who's a huge D-line guy, this could be a chance. So I do want to mention that there is a chance that he could be a defensive end by the year's end. He could get that classification going into the NFL. I don't know. We'll see. I personally think he's going to stick as a linebacker, but there is a chance that he gets that dual eligibility going in at the next level. So Trenton Simpson, again, we're talking about a first rounder here. We're talking probably top half of the first round, maybe the 15, 14, 13 range. Depends really on what we see from this season. He's got a new coach. Clemson should be good this year. So I think we should be seeing a lot of him, and he should be able to make up for some of that. So those are the two I feel great with. I don't have any problem at all with either of those players. Those guys are the must-haves going into next draft season. So let's get on to the little bit of mystery that we have. And that starts with number 3, Justin Flo from Oregon. So he had a foot injury in 2021 that only allowed him to play 1 game. He had a torn meniscus in 2020, which only allowed him to play 2 games. So he has played a total of 3 games at the collegiate level. He is 6'2", 235 pounds. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, why in the world is this guy? It's more of how he was coming out of high school, how he profiles to be able to play this year. Honestly, I didn't even write down strengths or weaknesses for him, because the one thing that we need to see from him is how he plays coming off the injury. He profiles to be a very good linebacker. He profiles to be in the same vein as the guys listed above him, whereas they're, good and cover, they can cover. He can play the Mike linebacker if need be, even though Noah Sewell is going to be that guy on the team this year. He should be, he's going to be a good tackler. Like, At 235 pounds, he's very fluid in motion. I think that he could be, another dual eligibility guy, kind of like Trenton Simpson, where he drops back in coverage. We just need to see it. And that's, that should tell you where the linebackers are on this list, is that a guy like that profiles to be the third best linebacker in this class, but we haven't seen it. So it's hard to put him up there. But moving on. Well, I keep it short with him. We'll watch Justin Flo this year. I just need to put. I'm setting my flag up where I put him up at the top now, and then I'll drop him as the season goes on. As he I'll move him up. I doubt he moves up, but if he does move up, we'll have already started him up there. So we'll see. Number 4, Henry Toto from Alabama. So he played his first 2 years of college at the University of Tennessee, before going down to Bama to play for Nick Saban last season. 6'2", 228 pounds. I'm not going to lie. He comps to me like Nakobe Dean. He is, he's taller than Nakobe Dean, but he's around the same weight as Nakobe Dean. And he's got 75 tackles, 3 sacks last season. He's more of just a leader on the defense. I mean, he's never going to outshine Will Anderson on the Alabama defense. You're never going to leave a game saying, wow, that Henry Toto was way better than Will Anderson. You're never going to leave it like that. And I mean, there's other players on the Alabama defense that you're even going to be more attracted to, I think, by the end of this. But he's a very good leader, kind of like Nakobe Dean was last year when he was on a team with all first rounders pretty much, and he had to be the leader of that. And I think that's kind of what we're looking at here with Henry Toto. He's good in coverage. That's he's not really needed in the pass rush game. He more can find the guy with the ball, good at closing and speed to get to them, and making the tackle. There's nothing wrong with that. There really isn't. And I would say, the weaknesses are the same we had with Nakobe Dean. He was undersized, and he is good but not great at everything. And while Nakobe Dean, the main difference between the two and why I was higher on Nakobe Dean than I will be on Henry Toto is that Nakobe Dean made the impact plays count every time. He's the guy that makes the interception. He is the guy that makes the fumble or has the fumble and makes the fumble recovery. He's the guy that gets in on those sacks. He was way more involved on the Georgia defense. Now, here's the thing. Maybe is that a product of the Georgia defense just being that incredible that he can afford to do that on that kind of a defense where the whole entire team is talented? So it just affords more opportunities for players such as Nakobe Dean last year. Sure, I could listen to that kind of an argument, but at the same time, Henry Toto, we're just going to need to see that next level this year. Now, if he comes in flying and he is, it's Will Anderson and Henry Toto, and we're just like talking about those two hand in hand, sure, I will be willing to make myself, I'll be willing to say I was wrong about him. But going into the season, he is a little undersized, and he needs to work on he needs to get great at one thing, at least, if not just better at both things. And I mean, Alabama's going to be good this year, so we should see plenty of him. He should be in plenty of big games. He should be the guy that you're looking for out there. So we will see Henry Toto. Hopefully not overshadowed by Will Anderson, but it's hard not to be because that guy is a beast. And the last player on this list I have is Marvian Overshown from Texas. 6'4", 224 pounds, 52 tackles last season, 2 sacks, and 1 pass break up. He's a tackle machine. That's the one thing that he has been in his entire career. He is very good at diagnosing run plays. I mean, if you're running on Marvian Overshown, you hope that you went the opposite direction that he was on because he is going to stop that right in his tracks. And he's very fast too. Like that is the one thing about him. I'm pretty sure he runs a 4.5 40. He's a really quick player. This is another candidate I think could be a linebacker / defensive end. He's just a little like small for a defensive end. He's gonna have to bulk up quite a bit if he wants to be that. But at 6'4", you could definitely see him profile as such. But only being 228 pounds is kind of putting him behind the 8 ball there. Now the weaknesses is he is a super senior. He's in his 5th year. And he needs to be, he needs to get quite a bit stronger. And I mean, I just kind of touched on that a little bit, but he's going to have to gain not necessarily weight, but muscle. And if you're going to be the smaller guy, especially at 6'4", with that kind of frame, you're going to need to be a little bit bulkier if you're going to, at the next level. This is a guy right here that I'm pretty sure, I'm breaking out the Chris Collinsworth. This is a guy. Like the Marvian Overshown is a guy that I think we're going to look back on and be like, wow, why wasn't he better in college than he is now in the NFL? I think he's going to be that guy. And I personally cannot wait to see how he transforms at the next level. All right. Done with linebackers. There's plenty more to talk about. We will get to them as we move on. But for now, we're just going to leave it at those 5. We're going to move on to defensive backs. It's not as exciting as it was last year. I hate to say. I mean, I guess, Kyle Hamilton, I don't know if you've all seen the video on Twitter where he was getting absolutely got cooked off the line. To address that slightly, he is not a man-to-man coverage guy. That was never going to be Kyle Hamilton's game. If you're going to judge Kyle Hamilton based off of that, then okay, sure. But he played free safety and was never really asked to ever do press coverage at the line. It was just never in his repertoire of tools. So why they even put that video out? Maybe it was just something they were doing for fun or something. I don't know. But absolutely roasted on Twitter by everyone that just, was like, hey, that's weird, a defensive back that can't cover. That's not quite what it was. He's not a cover guy off the line. But to start off these defensive backs, we have another Notre Dame kid, and that would be Brandon Joseph, who played opposite Kyle Hamilton last season. 6'1", 192 pounds, 60 tackles, 2 passes defensed, and 3 interceptions. Now, here is the better thing about him than we had with Kyle Hamilton is that he can play free safety, and he can also play coverage man-to-man off the line, which is something Kyle Hamilton, obviously, as we saw from that video, struggled with. So the another good thing about him is, Kyle Hamilton was 6'4", Brandon Joseph's 6'1". He's built like a cornerback, but he tackles and plays really heavy like a safety. So I think that the versatility of that is going to be very key to having him on your team going into when you get to the 2023 draft. Do I think he's going to go high in the draft? Potentially. I mean, I don't think he makes it out of the first round. Top 10's not out of the question. I love how he profiles. Profiling as a cornerback that can play safety is the dream of any team looking for a safety, because most safeties are like Kyle Hamilton, where they need to start further back and then they go on the hunt to try to get the ball. With Brandon Joseph, you can put him off the line, or you can leave him in, drop him into coverage. One of the two, whichever one you want, and he will be very available to make all of the tackles and passes. So Brandon Joseph is a really good player. I'd say his one weakness is tackling, and that's just because of his size. He needs to bulk up a little bit, slightly. For his size, 6'1", 192 pounds is not that bad, but at the next level, I think he's going to need to be 200 and change. So I'm excited for Brandon Joseph. I think he's going to be a good defensive back going into next season. Don't think he's going to be quite as exciting as Kyle Hamilton got, but potentially. Number 2 on this list, Jordan Battle from Alabama. 6'1", 206 pounds. Just mentioned size. This is the size. Jordan Battle, 6'1", 206 pounds, 63 tackles last year, 3 interceptions, 4 passes defensed. Now, the one fun fact about Jordan Battle last year, allowed 111 yards the entire season in coverage. Yes, literally. The entire season, when a quarterback threw on Jordan Battle, they only gained 111 yards for all. I think he played in 14 games, all 14 games. It's less than 10 yards a game if you're out there doing quick math. Just insane. He's an extremely good cover corner or cover safety. I mean, the only reason that he's not as high as Brandon Joseph is that his timing on tackles in coverage is slightly off, in my opinion. Like whenever diagnosing a play, he does not have that one step further that I think Brandon Joseph has, but he is still an incredible safety. He's definitely a first rounder. Brandon Joseph and Jordan Battle, we're going to be flip-flopping them the entire season, I believe. I think they're both going to be great. I think both Notre Dame and Alabama are going to be great. And I think that both of these guys are going to be vying for that top safety position by the end of the season. We're just starting Joseph 1, Battle 2, but either of these guys is going to be solid going into next season. These are the two guys you're going to look out for in secondary. If you need a safety on your team, if you're looking for a defensive back that you have needed to fill out your position, these are going to be your guys. So let's move on to the mysteries. We'll start with the mysteries. So number 3, we're going to start with a personal favorite of mine, and that's Akeem Dent from Florida State. Only played 10 games last season. 6'1", 196 pounds, safety. 34 tackles, 1 interception, 3 pass breakups in the 10 games that he played last season. He is the leader of the defense. Good tackler, good speed. None of those are an issue. Needs to be stronger, of course. I think that's just going to be a theme with 6'1" and under 200-pound guys, is they're going to have to get stronger, and the way to gain that weight is going to be hitting the weight room. And I'm sure that's going to happen through the season, so I'm not overly concerned. The only problem with Akeem Dent I have, and mainly what everybody else has, is he's just a good tackler and he's just got good speed. He does not have transcendent breakneck speed that is going to definitely profile to the next level. So I definitely could see him going into the second round. A lot of people might have him further down their list even. I don't. I believe in Akeem Dent. I liked him when he was coming out of high school. I think that he has shown the ability on a bad Florida State team. I think he's shown that he can be a guy there. And I think that ability makes him well worth the price of admission to getting Akeem Dent. So I'm starting him out at number 3. Could shoot further down depending on how the season goes. Number 4, we're going to use our one cornerback here, and that's Keely Ringo from Georgia. I think he could be a top 4 player in the draft. I'm not going to lie to you. He's an amazing cornerback. 6'2", 205 pounds, 34 tackles last season, 2 interceptions, 8 passes defense. He plays like a safety. That's the weird part of Keely Ringo for Georgia, is he's a very safety-ish cornerback. And I think that NFL GMs are going to, talent evaluators are going to have to see that, and they're going to have to use him as such at the next level. I mean, he is really good in coverage. I mean, he also kind of plays the position like a receiver. Like if you had a receiver and you made them into a cornerback or a safety, he kind of plays like that, like how that player would play. And that's kind of exciting. I'm not going to lie. I think that could mean a lot of good things for Keely Ringo. Because he's a cornerback, how everyone in the IDP, community feels about cornerbacks. So I can see what the problem, most people are going to have. Sauce Gardner last year was an amazing cover corner. Is he ever going to be fantasy relevant? I don't necessarily know if that's ever going to happen. Keely Ringo, I think, actually could break the mold because he can be a ball hawk. And like I said, he does play the position like a safety. And if he just gets, at 6'2", you're going to have to be a little bit stronger than 205, in my opinion. So he's going to have to gain a little bit more strength. That's kind of all the defensive backs, and most of them, to be honest, other than Jordan Battle. I think he's perfect. But Keely Ringo is going to have to gain a little bit. Like most of them are going to have to gain a little bit of strength. And that's mainly just to like out muscle receivers. Receivers are coming in, 6'3", 6'2", and they're all going to be about 220 pounds or so. What are you going to do with that when you're a receiver? Some of them are smaller, like Jamar Chase, for example. I think he's like 190 pounds. Like that's kind of who you're going to be after there. But most of these guys have the speed that's going to keep them relevant. So the speed that by itself is good enough. And I think Keely Ringo could easily be a guy that I think IDP drafts might actually get drafted in the first couple rounds in rookie drafts. I don't know that for sure. We'll have to see exactly what team he goes to and how they plan to use him, but there's a chance. All right, we'll move on to the last player on this list. A little bit of a mystery, and that's Jalen Catalon from Arkansas. He only played 6 games last season. 5'10", 199 pounds, 36 tackles, 2 interceptions, 3 pass breakups in those 6 games played. He's going to need a little bit more playing time for me to fully form the opinion on Jalen Cattle. Man, why do I keep saying Jordan? I keep thinking of Jordan Battle. No, Jalen Catalon. Before I form my full opinion, I will need to see him out there a little bit more for Arkansas this year. I have no real qualms. I mean, he is a little small, but he's a very strong player for being small. Like he is, 5'10", 199 pounds for a safety. That is, first of all, that's insane, but it's also very strong. Now, obviously being 5'10", going up against mostly 6'2", 6'4" players, there's 6'1" players in there too. You're always going to be at the height disadvantage, which is another reason that we're going to have to just wait and see how this year goes. He's going to be in the SEC. He's going to play against some good players this year. So we're going to get to see him play exactly how his size is. There's a little bit mystery to Jordan Catalon, but I'm very intrigued going into the season, and we're going to put him at number 5, and we'll see what happens. He's the last player safety wise that I think we could work themselves into the first round, but probably going to be a second rounder. Probably going to have to depend on where he lands landing wise. I would say Brandon Joseph, Jordan Battle, doesn't matter where they end up. You're going to want them on your team. Keem Dent and Jalen Catalon, definitely going to matter where they go. And then Keely Ringo, I think it's going to matter, but there's a potential that, he gets used as a potential cornerback safety situation, which would be weird. We never really see that at the next level. So that's all. That's our player previews for this year. I'm excited to be into college football season. I cannot wait to start with these lists and start working our way up and down. Last year, we were extremely accurate going into the season of exactly how the drafts ended up for the most part. So I think this season we're going to, more of the same. I think the point of this podcast is to kind of be a open notebook. Each week we're going to watch the games. We're going to break down exactly how each player did and who moves up and down. We won't go through every position every week. We'll just kind of hit the highlights and hit the lowlights, people that are moving up, people that are moving down, and potentially new players out there that I haven't even factored in. Kenneth Walker will always be the biggest example of this. I did not have Kenneth Walker in the top. I think we did top 8 running backs last season, and I didn't have him in the top 8 going into the season, and he came out of nowhere to be the 3rd best. Come out of nowhere is a little strong. He had a season to remember for Michigan State last season, so he was somebody that we were excited about after seeing him play. So I hope that there's players like that this season, but this is what I have going into this season, and I hope that you all can at least, jot these names down. Just keep them in the back of your head. Please follow along with the podcast this whole season. I promise you, like I said, we were very accurate going into the 2022 draft. I think 2023 draft, we're going to be even better kind of diagnosing exactly how good each one of these players are. So without further ado, have a great rest of your day, IDP Army. I really appreciate you tuning in. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for being here. If you're listening to this in a podcast, I also appreciate you listening there as well. If you would like to support the podcast and support our IDP Army, please go to patreon.com/IDP Army. We'll get you into the IDP index, the ultimate IDP index, and get you ready for your drafts this season. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, people that are listening to the podcast. We appreciate each and every subscriber, and I, can't give you all any more thanks. I really appreciate you all letting me do this. I appreciate all the people that listen through this entire thing. I love these little 30-minute shows because it gets me in and out really quick, and it gets you in and out really quick, especially if you're listening to like 1.5 speed or whatever. I'm sure this thing's flying because I feel like I talk fast, but maybe at 1.5 speed it is even quicker. I don't know. But thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day.